All right. What's up, everybody? We're tuning in just about a minute before the normal start time, or at least the flagged start time. How's everybody doing today? Why can't I see the chat? Where be chat? Why the hell can I not see the chat? Well, let's do this then. If it wants to be like that, I will do this. There we go. All right. So, a little bit of a workaround there. So, welcome everybody. How's everybody doing today? Got a couple people in here already. Brainsky, Gorgamon, Oda, Neko Slayer, Lord of Darkness, aka Sonic Right, Yabi Noah. I'm doing all right. It's been a short day so far. I woke up around 1 and I've just been relaxing, eating, and chilling up until this point just to get myself jived and ready to go. I got me a Red Bull from down the street, ready to go. I hope everybody else is doing pretty good. Honestly, I wasn't too sure how this whole thing was going to turn out. I'm still confused as to why I can't actually see the chat in my actual dashboard. I didn't have this problem last time we did a live stream. It was just there. So I've just got the stream itself pulled up on another window, so I can see your guys' messages and all that. So, where do we want to start off with these stellar seasons? Both of Stargirl for its first season and Doom Patrol wrapping up its second. So, I know we've kind of gone through a few things over in the comment section and whatnot, just because I can't help myself but to reply to you all as much as possible. I did lay out a couple of the questions and stuff that I didn't get to yet. Honestly, there wasn't really a whole lot that we didn't touch upon. So what questions do you guys have for me for my thoughts on Stargirl, Doom Patrol, and even if it's just Arrowverse, CW, DC TV in general, because there's a lot of stuff that's been announced here recently that we can also talk about. One of the things too is a little bit of a nitpick of mine and a little bit of a gripe that I've been seeing is that the new trailers for the upcoming lineup of DC TV shows on the CW is no longer being called the Arrowverse, but the CW-verse. Sorry, that's got me a little salty. What did I think of Grundy? I thought Grundy looked awesome. I mean, they were giving us little bits here and there throughout the season, teasing him up and always giving us just a little bit of a glimpse of him. Given the general budget of the show, I think he looked as good as he was going to look. I don't think he looked as good as like Grodd or King Shark has looked on The Flash before, but he still looked really great. In the range and dynamic of his movements and just how involved he was, especially when you're pitting two CGI things against one another, between him boxing against Stripe. It was really cool. They saved him until the very end, and I gotta say, it was a lot of fun. to see how that went off. I think it would have been a little bit more interesting if we learned a little bit more about what was going on with him. Was he mind controlled by the device? I mean, we were left to infer quite a bit, because after they destroyed the tower, he was no longer raging and violent or anything like that, because he kind of pulled up and he wasn't fighting back against Rick or anything. So I'm wondering, like, to what extent was he under his own control, you know? They didn't really explain it, and I would have liked that. But Grundy himself, he looked great. He was menacing, he was terrifying, he was hideous. He was all the things you expect from Grundy. And I'm curious to see, since he survived and they let him go, what's going to happen? Are we going to see him again? It'd be really awesome. Doom Patrol is basically a mid-season finale. Well, technically, Doom Patrol's finale was the penultimate episode. It was the pre-finale episode, because they didn't get to... They were only supposed to have 10 episodes in Doom Patrol Season 2, but they only got to film 9 of them. So the next episode, episode 10, had it been made, would have been the final episode of that season. They didn't have a 13 episode order like they did for the Season 1. They actually shortened the order for Season 2 right out of the gate. So whatever the last episode was supposed to be was going to end up being the last episode. D. McKenzie, I think the CW verse works right now since Arrow is over. I get it. I get that reasoning too, because it is, I think it's trying to move on from that, and I think that also comes into play because they're taking over some of the DC Universe shows. Like Swamp Thing is airing over on CW now, and Stargirl is moving exclusively to CW after this season. So I understand it, but technically, if you go back, Oliver created their world, so he gave birth to both of those timelines in the continuity, not in reality by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want the world or the universe itself to forget Arrow's involvement and the fact that it's the foundation of it. So I'm always going to call it the Arrowverse, no matter what they change the name to, because it's just how it all boils down to. It all stemmed from there, it all grew from there, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I get it from their point of view, but from my point of view, in my heart, it's 100% going to be Arrowverse through and through. Favorite episode of Stargirl? I have to say, I think it's episode 10. I'm pulling up the actual episode list so I can remember which ones are which. No, episode 11. When Courtney's dad shows up. That was my favorite episode. It wasn't action-packed, it wasn't crazy, it was just nothing but emotional impact for all of the characters. Especially Courtney, who we've been seeing struggling with this identity of hers and this delusion of who her father was, at least in her head, until it was destroyed in that episode, and it humbled her, I think. It really brought her down, because a lot of the reasons and a lot of the trouble she kept getting herself into was because she had this idea that her father was Starman. She was entitled to this greatness. She was the legacy of this greatness, and she got a little headstrong. She got a little cocky. We saw her breaking off from the group and making mistakes. A lot of it went to her head, and I think that episode, learning the truth about her father, really humbled the character, brought her down to earth, and it united her and Pat, finally. I mean, they'd always been there, and Pat's always put up with her crap because, of course, he's the father, and she's a teenager. Of course, she's going to be emotional. That's how teenagers are. I thought that was one thing the show did really good, was portray these kids all as teenagers. And they felt believable. Even when you're like, God, why can't you make the right decision? It's the decision a teenager would make. Like, it's frustrating from a viewer's point of view, but if you put yourself in that person's shoes, they acted the way they act. And seeing it all come to a head when she finally realizes that this entire time, what she thought of her father was all false, and that Pat was really the person that was there for her this entire time. And my favorite scene in the entire season is in that episode when she finally breaks down and hugs Pat. And then Pat goes out and lays his ass on the ground. Hell yeah. Good stuff, man. Making sure I'm not skipping anything. So I'm a little bit behind the chat, so I'm going to try to keep up here a little bit. Do you think Stargirl's second season will stay contained in Blue Valley? Honestly, I do. I think right now we're really ingrained in Blue Valley. I don't see us uprooting the JSA from that, since they all go to school there. Barb and Pat moved there. I think we'll stay in Blue Valley, and at that point it would just be the ISA, the whatever Cindy's organization dubs themselves as, are going to be coming to them. I think that's a fair thing to do, or at least I think that's a fair assumption to make, that we're going to be staying in Blue Valley at least for a while. I don't see any reason why our core team will move, but I think we'll stay in that area at least for the foreseeable future. I did not like Grundy. He looked way too CG. I agree. I think by that point, a lot of the budget kind of ran out, and I think Grundy was always going to look a little, not the best, because I think he looked amazing up until that point. A lot of the, in the same way that the Flash like covers up a lot of its CG, and like great CG in general, is by hiding things in shadows. When they had Grundy out in the daylight, that's when like the CGI was not at its greatest. And that's why I'm not going to fault it all that much for it, because it still looks, for the budget these shows run off of, it still looked pretty good. And it didn't really take away from it. I tried to like not let that ruin my enjoyment of it. It did look a little clay-facey, a little like video gamey. And I'm not talking like recent video games, maybe like PS3 video gamey, but it didn't look terrible. And it didn't take me out of it. That's why I was kind of saying too that I think in some instances King Shark and Grundy and the Flash has looked better. The thing about that though, Flash always like saves their budgets when they know they're going to use one of those characters, and they blow their CGI budgets on those episodes. I think this show did a really good job at balancing the budget across the board, because anytime we saw Stripe, anytime we saw any of the effects with like Icicle or anybody else, it always looked really good. Is Shiv a team player? Hell no. I don't know. Honestly, I think if you had her on a team that respected her, at least feared her and listened to her, she might be able to work well with a group. And I think that when she starts assembling these younger versions of the ISA, she will be on level ground, because the ISA themselves never saw her as an equal. They always held her below them, beneath them. Working with her was a step down to them. So she was never willing to work with them. They were never willing to have her be a part of the group either. So I think if we have Icicle Jr., Artemis, and some of the other members that they put in there, Tuba Boy, I don't know what his name's going to be because he doesn't have a fiddle. Like, what's going to happen there? I think that they'll all be on a level playing field, and at least she's the one that's been in this the longest. From a teenager's perspective, she's at least been in the know as much more so than any of the other kids that we've seen. So I think she'd be able to command them, and I think in that way she would feel more like a peer to them as well as a leader, and I think she might be able to lead and work with them in a good way. What do I think is going to happen with the pin? So they've talked about Jakeem a few times, but we never saw him. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll see Jakeem in season 2, but they teased the pin a lot. We didn't get any payoff with it. I thought maybe they might end up doing like some kind of change in adaptation and have Mike get the pin. But after the conversations that were had at the end of this season, I don't think they're going to put Mike into like a supernatural, super-powered kind of role, and maybe kind of follow in Pat's footsteps. Maybe. I don't know. They could still either have it go to Jakeem like it does in the comics, or they can have it go to Mike. And I'd be fine with either, and honestly, if they wanted to go that route, because we haven't we've only heard him mentioned by name from Mike. We've still never seen him, so who knows? Shiv Icicle Jr. or Doom Patrol did a Titans. Hopefully they do better. Doom Patrol did a Titans. I want you to elaborate on that one, because I think Titans is not anywhere close to the level of Doom Patrol in any respect. So can you clarify what you mean by that one, Gargamon? Shiv Icicle Jr. Artemis about to get trained by Tigress and Sportsmaster. If they do that, if they train them and build them up, because I mean they've already kind of been doing that with Artemis, but I think if they formally trained the ones that survived, that would make some really formidable foes out of the entire young ISA. King Shark versus Stripe. Like, are we talking like a fight? I mean, I don't know. King Shark, I don't think could get into Stripe, but Grundy could. So maybe, I don't know. I think King Shark might have the versatility on that and might be able to take out Stripe, at least in Stripe's current form. My favorite one was Henry Jr. That's episode 10. That was a really good one as well. That one was my favorite up until 11. What's funny about this season was up until episode 11, every new episode was like my favorite episode. The one before that, I was like, that was my favorite episode. Next episode would come out, I'd be like, that one's my favorite episode. And each one kept topping itself for me until I got to episode 11. I keep mixing that up. Episode 11 when Sam Curtis is introduced, and I don't know. I don't think anything really beat the emotional weight of that buildup that we've been waiting on for the last 10 episodes to have Courtney's ego put in check. Godspeed versus Green Lantern. That would depend on which Green Lantern, but if we're talking like Hal Jordan or Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern would destroy Godspeed. I think Mike's friend might get the pin and become Thunderbolt, since that's how it is in the comics. Like I was saying, D. McKenzie, I think you're right. I think they might go that route. The only reason I think they may or may not lean against that is because we didn't get any introduction to that character, only a little bit of a name nod, name drop earlier in the season, and then nowhere else throughout the rest of it. But I hope they go that route, because I think that one of the things that this show does really well is staying fairly comic accurate, and it's a lot of fun doing that way. Also, you can kind of spoil things for yourself if you know the comics by knowing what they've done before, what they might do to follow up on that. What do you think of Shadow? You mean the Shade? I don't know. I'm not familiar with him as far as his abilities. I looked up a little bit into him after the season was over, but I didn't read too much because I didn't want to potentially spoil anything for myself yet. But I don't know. I think his design looks cool. His power is interesting. I want to know who he's working for. If he's still evil or whatever, because he betrayed the ISA back in the final confrontation with the original JSA. So I don't know. Who is Eclipso? From what I gathered, because in the moment I didn't know who Eclipso was. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't put a face or an image to my mind whatsoever. Looked it up, and apparently it was the previous Wrath. You know, whereas the Source created Spectre to become the new Wrath of God or the universe or whatever. So Eclipso is the counterpart of the Spectre. Or you could also say, in a way, the entity that performed the Spectre's current duties prior to the Spectre's creation. So Eclipso itself is as powerful as the Spectre. Maybe not as powerful, but right on that level, which makes me wonder where they might go with that. But I think what they're getting at too is this imprisoned in that diamond that we saw, and I don't know, this is where it kind of goes into different interpretations and what they decide to do with it from there. But basically, think of it as like this archangel of chaos and evil, and it can just pretty much, it's crazy powerful. Should Stargirl cross over with the other shows? And if they do, what season should it happen? Honestly, I think it might happen next season. Now that it's over on CW, maybe not. I'd say it's either going to happen season 2, because they talked about in season 1, because a lot of people were asking, because this was introduced into the Arrowverse with the crossover event, that, you know, what's the potential of us seeing the crossover in this? And they were like, okay, for season 1, we're staying away from any of the other shows, and we'll look at it down the road. So I think in season 2, there's a possibility of crossovers, especially now that if this is moving to the CW, it is the only one not on the same Earth as the other ones. And maybe since they're all in the same network, and that was the reason for Crisis on Infinite Earths in the first place, was to get all of the Arrowverse shows on the same Earth, so they didn't have to have all these layers and complications as to why they can't meet each other in there, that they might try to do something to get Stargirl on Earth Prime too. I don't know. They might hold off on it for a little while just to kind of let it soak in itself for a while, because they did that with Black Lightning too for a long time. It didn't come in until season 3 of Black Lightning. So it could be very, I think the most sensible thing would be season 3 would be about as far out as I would imagine we would get a crossover with Stargirl and the other shows. As far as season 2, I think they could do it, but I think that might be a little rushed if they did want to do that. So I don't know. I think season 3 is probably going to be the more reasonable explanation to win, or not explanation, words. I think that might be the most reasonable time we might actually see them cave into it. Is Eclipso meant for the Wizard? I don't know. The Wizard's dead. His kid's dead, so there's no legacy there. So there's going to be somebody else that's going to be getting that gem. It's not tied to his powers at all, because that was the wand that he had his powers from in his previous master, but I don't know why he had Eclipso's diamond. I don't know. Mike is going to be working on Stripe for sure. Awesome. I felt bad for Courtney when her world came crashing down. Me too, but at that point, I was just ready for it because she was making so many mistakes because of this idea that she had in her head, and it was putting a lot of them in danger, and she was putting herself on this pedestal that she was just never going to reach until she had like this reality check that episode 11 brought her. Shadow versus Stripe. I don't know. We didn't see Shadow do anything, or the Shade do anything, so I don't know. Probably the Shade, because Stripe didn't really put up much of a fight against really anybody one-on-one that had powers. And I mean, Grundy took him down. Icicle, the first time they fought, took him down. Yeah, I don't know. Stripe didn't really have a good win-loss record in that one. Titans left the season finale of the first season into the first episode of the second season. Super anticlimactic. I agree, Titans sucks, though. Hopefully season 3 is way better. Okay, that's what you bet. Yeah, well, I'll give it with Titans, they made that decision themselves. Doom Patrol couldn't. They were going to make that episode. They were going to finish the season, and then COVID happened, and they had to close down. Somebody on set got sick, and they weren't actually able to film the final episode. So Titans made that judgment call themselves, which I don't understand whatsoever, with why the season finale of Titans Season 1 is in the first episode of Titans Season 2. The first 2 seasons of Titans, I think, were just trash. And I know I've gotten some backlash about that before, because I know a lot of people like Titans, but it's poorly written, horribly paced. The characters' arcs just run in circles, and the plot runs on a treadmill in both seasons. Season 2 I thought was going to be a lot better because it started off really slow. The first 4 or 5 episodes of season 2 were very promising because it was actually focusing on the characters. And then the last couple of episodes of the season just went straight into a train wreck. I can't. I really hope they get some better writing for season 3, because the show just became more and more painful for me to watch. The suits look great, the cinematography looks great, the CGI is completely garbage. It's the worst that I've seen in any of the DC TV shows whatsoever. Worse than anything I've seen on CW, worse than Supergirl and those memes that you saw. Gar's freaking tiger form is awful. I like the cast, don't get me wrong. I like the castings, I like the production design, I like the suits that they have for all the characters, but my god, they need some better writers and they need a higher budget for that CGI. What do you think of Geoff Johns having the first 5 seasons written down? Does he? I mean, I'm not surprised. He created the character, so if he's already got this mapped out, then I think I'm all on board for that, because this is his character. Stargirl is his character. So if anybody knows this character, it's going to be Geoff Johns and where to go with it. And whether you like him or hate him, I think he knows what to do with this character more so than anybody else, and I would trust him to follow it through. And whatever he thinks is best for this character, I think they should just stick with it, go for it, and I think we'll have some solid seasons. If his ability to bring this first season right out of the gate so strong, hell man, run wild with it. Do what he's got laid out. As long as they don't do like the Disney Star Wars stuff and throw Lucas's script right out the water, right out of the gate, I think they're gonna have a solid 5 seasons of show if they keep it up with this quality. No one in the school would bully the principal's son. I don't know about nobody. I had a kid in school that drop kicked the principal, so I don't think somebody being the principal's son would keep them from picking on anybody. I think, if anything, being the principal's son or child in general makes you a bigger target, a bigger loser in a lot of people's eyes, traditionally. Not saying that's what I think, but from my experience in school and from the things I've seen growing up, that would make them a bigger target. And I think what happened was very likely to have happened. Will Cameron become Icicle Jr. to honor his father? And that's the thing. If Icicle is actually dead, if Jordan is actually dead, how's Cameron going to find out? Is the grandparents going to be the one to tell him about what his father's been doing, who his father was? And is then he going to decide to follow in his father's footsteps? Because there was no reveal to Cameron about his father's true identity, intentions, or any of that. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see how that's going to go out and what's going to make him turn into villainy. Because I was always wondering what the thing was going to be in this season, because we know Henry Jr. was going to be Brainwave Jr. And then we had Icicle Jr. on the other side. And I figured the way the plot was panning out, we were like, oh, where's this going to go? Which one of them is going to be the good guy? Then we're going to turn over one of them and one of them is going to be bad. I thought that was the way it was going to go, but then Cameron just got kind of sidelined by the end of the season and kind of left out for a while. So I don't know. Imagine if Mike became Dr. Fate. I don't... Well, okay. So when Dr. Fate is Dr. Fate, he's not in control, at least from what I remember. Nobu is the entity within the helmet. Whenever you put the helmet on, Nobu takes over. Mike himself ceases to be if he puts on the helmet. So I don't know. You just have like a little tiny child, or would he Shazam into a fully formed Nobu? I don't know. I don't know. That's an interesting question. The logistics of Nobu's helmet. What do you think they'll do with Icicle's son in season 2? I think my working idea right now, like I said a moment ago, I think at this point, since Jordan is presumed dead, I would assume that either Jordan somehow survives and Cameron finds out through Jordan what happened, what the truth is, or from the news and what the truth is, or the grandparents tell him he's got to carry on the legacy or whatever. I think because clearly those grandparents were into some shady business to begin with and were completely fine with all of this junk that was going on with that Jordan was doing and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, all right, Cameron, now it's your turn. Follow in your father's footsteps. And we'll see where it goes from there. I don't know. Gosh. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Chat keeps getting away from me here. I read some Jack Knight Starman comics, and he was a bit of an anti. That would be interesting. See how that comes about. Nah, it's pulls in another question. What's going to happen here with Sylvester Pemberton being alive? A lot of questions there. And I've talked about my working theories on how that might be or who it might be before. I'll just kind of touch on that again. He's either Sylvester from another Earth. He's somehow survived and has been laying low this entire time for some reason. He's the Shade in disguise. He's some other shapeshifter in disguise. Or if he, with the introduction of Eclipso, he is the new Spectre, with Oliver retiring into his dream dimension. Maybe he passed on the Spectre to Sylvester, and Sylvester will be the Spectre in Stargirl Season 2. And he'll fight Eclipso. I don't know. I'm not sure. Those are right now where I'm standing at. I don't think he's going to go down there. I was like, all right, give me my staff back. I don't know if he'll do that, though, if it actually is him. But I think one of the key things, and this is something that's been said in the comments on the previous videos too, is like, we just got to keep an eye out for how the staff reacts if this Sylvester approaches Courtney, the staff, and Pat and them. See how it reacts. As you said, Shade betrayed them, so he was against their taking over people's minds and against their constitution. Yep, true. So is he still evil? Is he working with his own organization? Is he have his own motives? Because Pat had that line, it was like, they always have a cover story or whatever, they always cover this up. Who's the they? Was he meaning the ISA? Is he talking about this other organization that the Shade is now part of? Don't know. Will Barb become a superhero? I doubt it. I don't know if she has any kind of legacy in the comics themselves, so I don't know about that. I think it's highly unlikely. I think she'll just be the mom in the know. But I don't know. But in terms of location, I think it'd be interesting crossover with Black Lightning because of all the other shows are in Vancouver and not Atlanta. That would be really cool. And I think it would fit in a lot more visually to have those two crossover. But again, now we got the separation of Earths. So I got that. I don't know how they'd go about that because, oh shoot. Thunder? Lightning. I can't remember any of their names right now. The youngest daughter. She is able to transcend the multiverse. At least she was going into the crossover event. Because I was thinking Black Lightning, as part of his team, doesn't really have the necessarily abilities and means to cross over into another multiverse. But she did. Jennifer did. She could. Because she tapped into some of her doppelgangers and leading into Crisis. So maybe that way they could do it that way to get them to cross over. Do you think they will ship their Jay Garrick? No. No, they've already said that well, I don't know that they would make John Wesley ship their Jay Garrick, but they did confirm that the Jay Garricks we have seen in The Flash are not this Jay Garrick. This is a completely separate Jay Garrick that we've never seen before. But they could cast John Wesley Shipp, but I think that to continue to make the distinction, I don't think if we ever see somebody playing Jay Garrick, it's going to be him. I could see Kara and Barry taking the older siblings' role if Stargirl did a crossover with their shows. I could see that too. Especially since now those two, Kara and Barry, are the seniors of tenure out of the league now. You know, Oliver's gone. We don't have a bat. It really comes down to Barry and Kara for sure. Words. Stargirl versus Black Lightning. Black Lightning. I think right now Black Lightning would be able to wipe the floor with her, especially with his new suit. I don't know though. That the staff has a pretty powerful beam. I don't know. I don't think she could beat Jennifer though. Jennifer is like pure power. Let's see. It definitely was trash. My favorite episode was Connor. Honestly, I can't remember what my favorite episode of Titans has been. None of season 1. Actually, no. My favorite episode of Titans was the one that purely was about Dove and Hawk and Dove. Hawk and Dove. That was my favorite episode. I thought that was the best episode of season 1, and it stayed the best episode of season 1. Season 2, I can't remember enough of it to give you guys a favorite episode of that season. It was so forgettable. I think my favorite episode was the one that gave the backstory on Jericho. I think that might have been my favorite episode because I don't know. I just really found that character really endearing. Do you think Cameron will research his father and learn about him being Icicle, and that's our way of getting more Jordan even though he's dead? Maybe. Though I think with the grandparents still being around, I think that, like I said before, I think they're going to fill him in on what it is now that he's the head male of the family or whatever, because they seem very traditional in a way that I think that they would be like, all right, Cameron, take on, you are now the head of the household. You are to take on your father's legacy and walk his path. I don't know. I think the grandparents would get in there and get into his head, try to steer him towards villainy. Because there was just something weird and nefarious about those two that just stood out in a different way than like Jordan and the others. I don't know what it was about them. Thoughts on Tuba Turd? I am not impressed, but he did shove that tuba in him, and I was proud about that. I don't know if he's going to get powers with the tuba or if he's going to get the fiddle and become the next fiddler, because it's not like he's got a magic tuba, and the fiddle itself is what gave her the powers. So it only makes sense if he took on the fiddle. But then it comes down to, does he have to learn to play the fiddle now? Because clearly his preference was the tuba. So he's got to learn a whole other instrument in order to be, you know, any kind of a threat. Damn, he got drop kicked. Yeah. Yolanda killing Brainwave surprised me, needed to happen since he killed his wife, son, plus Yolanda probably deep down was still in love with Henry, even though he hurt her. Definitely. I was not expecting that whatsoever. That one, I honestly fell for the Henry thing. I was like, there's gotta be a trick here. There's gotta be something, but I didn't think it was Brainwave using like a mental illusion. But looking back on it, like it did seem like it was very much set up, especially with how, even though like hurt Yolanda was by Henry, she still had like this gravitation and pull towards him because she did love him. Let's see. Yeah. Oof. And they did say that in season 2 they're going to be exploring the psychological effects of her taking his life in that moment, which kind of comes down to it, like, why did Brainwave even go about it that way? Because he could have just walked out there and just crunch and just wiped the floor with them. Instead, he wanted to do the villain thing and play into their emotions and feed off of them and be manipulative, and it just backfired. It got himself killed. Got too cocky and full of himself. Dr. Mike with a heavy New York City accent. Dude, that would be funny. That would be so funny. I doubt that Icicle is dead. If he's like Iceman, which I don't know how powerful of an ice cryomancer that he is, cause like if he's anything on the level of like Iceman and Marvel, he's immortal. Like as long as there's moisture or ice anywhere in the universe, he can just reform from it. Or he could, if he's busted, he can just pull himself back together. I don't know if Jordan has that ability, and I don't know if he's matured enough with his own powers in this version of the character to have that ability, even if the comic book version does. But I don't know, it is just kind of a punk way to go out though with the truck, even though I loved it for like the villain that he was hyped up to be. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's out. At this point, I think every ISA member that we saw die is dead, so that they can make room for the characters to take over their spots, their positions, since we have an Icicle Jr., since we have the Fiddler's son, since we have Cindy out there to replace the Dragon King. I think we've got their replacements. Should Stargirl hold off on romantic relationships in the show and slowly build them up, unlike other Arrowverse shows? Yes. I think they should keep this show as soap opera free as possible. As much as I love a good ship, as much as I love some relationships in there that work and feel natural, I think at this point it would be really forced. And but the thing is, they started to do that with her and Cameron, and I thought that was very organic, and it didn't really pan out. We didn't see where that went from there, and they could still pursue that, but I don't know how that would go now, because she knows who Cameron's father was. So once Cameron finds out, that's going to throw a big wrench into all of that. So I don't know. Icicle's son will find out about his dad and see him come back in season 2. Yes, agreed. Why wasn't Supergirl moved to HBO Max instead of CW? Because I understand the cast and crew will stay the same, but the budget will still be a big problem, as the move to broadcast TV is a big drop. I don't know. I think it's because they already had a previous deal with CW as the backup airing platform, because unlike Doom Patrol, which aired exclusively on the 2 streaming services, for season 1 of Stargirl, I honestly think it's the demographic was the reasoning for that. I think they knew that CW would be a good fit for a young superheroine character about a bunch of teenagers, set in high school setting. It's not overly gory. It's not, unlike the other stuff on DC Universe, it isn't made for a mature audience. It has some mature themes in there, and it doesn't hold back when it wants to, but it's more geared towards a younger audience, unlike everything else on DC Universe. So I think putting on the CW allows it to draw in a more younger audience that they're targeting than putting it on a streaming service, which would rely on adults and people who have money and have to spend money in order to watch it. I think that was probably the logical call there. And because of that pre-existing deal and relationship they had with the airing rights with CW, that when they knew the DC Universe was going to be closed off, that was the natural place to send it, was the CW. That's my take on it. They've never made any formal announcements about either, but I think that's the logical case for why that was done, as opposed to Doom Patrol, Titans, Harley Quinn, Swamp Thing. Even though Swamp Thing's on CW, I'm curious how much that's going to be edited down, because that was a pretty hard R show for quite a bit of it. Doom Patrol, you would have to just, you couldn't even air that on TV with the editing. It would just be every other sentence would be bleeped out. It'd be like trying to put an Eminem song edited on radio. It's just, it rarely works. What do you think about Black Lightning? The first season I absolutely loved, and I liked a lot of aspects about seasons 2 and 3. But what I think hindered it for me overall was that I think that season 2 and 3 both being about the Markovian invasion made it feel like you were watching one giant season. Like season 2 and 3 felt like it really blended together for me. Of course, they have the definitive jumping off point, you know, once Jefferson gets imprisoned in the pit. Well, not imprisoned, but voluntarily goes to the pit. I think that I don't know. I think my only issue with is it just felt like that entire story arc was just really drawn out, but I really loved it because I really like those characters and the actors and actresses that they have in that show. It's just I just wish they would have, kind of like with the cicada plot in that season of The Flash. It just like, Jesus Christ, can we just be over with cicada? And then in this, I was like, can we just be done with Markovia and the ASA and all this stuff and just move on? Seeing the Gambler be a pauper next season. Possibly. I think they'll move CW so they can have a big crossover. Probably. I think that's going to be... I don't know if it'd be... I don't think it'll be next season for the big... like a crossover with Stargirl, but it'll be interesting there. Thank you, Bianca Horkin and Braylon, for clearing up the names of the siblings in Black Lightning, because I always forget, especially since it's been so long since I've watched it. But I just needed a minute, and I got through it all there. Lightning, oh my gosh, it keeps going down. I'm almost caught up. Caleb, probably because it fits better on CW since it crosses over teenagers. Yeah. Pretty much what I said. What do you think about Grace? I don't know. She doesn't really add much except for her relationship with Anissa. I don't know. I don't know. She's an interesting character. I don't think she has very many interesting things to do, though. I'd like to see them... that's okay. That's going to go into another kind of problem that I think the CW has in general with a lot of its shows, is that the cast becomes so big that it's hard to give something relevant to do for everybody on the show. And that's where you end up with things like with Caitlyn for all of last season, just kind of, I know she was pregnant, but like her storyline was just sitting at home and packing to go move and get some mystical cure done for her body. Cisco goes backpacking for a week. It just leaves them with not a whole lot of interesting things for their side characters to do, and I think that's the kind of the position that Grace was put in, because I think their relationship in the beginning was really interesting and fun, and then once everything came together before Crisis, it was just kind of like, all right, that's okay. Wayne Brady was awesome though. Do you see any characters being shortchanged next season? In this show, no. I don't think we're going to shortchange any of the characters in this, because I think that as long as Geoff Johns is in charge, I think we got a strong framework to balance things out, because I think that they did a really amazing job at dividing up a lot of growth and time to everybody. And as long as they, just like I've said before in all my reactions, as long as the creative team behind it, the writing staff behind the show, and Geoff Johns are involved, the budget can change, but I don't think it'll hurt the show. I think they'll be able to keep going at this pace and keep it going. Do you think we will see Jade and Obsidian, Alan Scott's children? Maybe. That would be really cool. I don't know. Jade didn't betray the ISA because he thought their plan was wrong, but because he knew the plan was going to fail, so I think he's still evil. Somebody had pointed out in the comments that he's very protective of his city. I think it was Opal City, and that fell in the blast radius of it, so to protect it from them, he didn't want them to mess with his city. I don't know how true that is, but I do think that I think it all comes from the same place. I think that there was something about that did not jive with him. Not that he turned over a new leaf or wanted anything different. It's just that he was like, it's either going to fail or it doesn't really jive with what his intentions are. So I thought that was really fun. My favorite episode of Teen Titans Season 2 was when we see the Nightwing suit. I thought that was awesome. I think it looks awesome. I just think it took way too long to get there, and I don't like the storyline that got us to the suit. They butchered Dick to me. I think they butchered Dick's character, his whole arc in Season 1 and 2, and it's just a fucking mess, and it makes Dick seem like an idiot. I'll say it, and I'll leave it there. I'm sorry. But yeah, the suit looks awesome. But who is this outsource? Okay, I'm gonna go on a rant. I'm sorry. So there's this. So Bruce doesn't make his own suits. He doesn't make the suits for his own people. Alfred doesn't make the suits. They hire this outsourced company, this tailor that makes all of their super suits in secret, but knows all of their code names, knows all of their real names, their locations, their phone numbers, and everything. It's this outside group. The Bruce, the smart man that he is, would never let that shit outside of his own home. Do you think Stargirl will make Alan Scott Green Lantern a member of the Corps, or will they keep his standard origin? They're going to keep his standard origin. They will keep everything. I do not think that they would take any of the later additions to the Green Lantern Corps, the Speed Force, or anything into Jay Garrick or Alan Scott's origins in this iteration, because I think that this show in particular, and Geoff Johns and the way that he handles this property, is very much into respecting the origins that where they came from, the origins of these two characters, and I think they would pay respect to that, and I think they'll keep it like this magical creation, you know, the lab experiment that gave Jay his powers and stuff like that. I don't think they'll take it to him being part of the Corps or anything like that. I think they would keep it down. Arrow versus Tigress. Arrow. I haven't seen anybody that could beat Oliver in a hand-to-hand fight right now. Brainwave will probably appear in Season 2 in the form of hallucinations for Yolanda. So I was thinking about that too. I was thinking that there had to be some reason they kept saying that there was this energy transfer when Brainwave killed Henry Jr. He's like, I felt myself absorb him, get stronger. And like they said that multiple times. It wasn't just then, it was brought up in a couple different scenes. There's got to be a reason that they did that, and I thought maybe it would be for either to open up the door for Brainwave himself to have his consciousness survive his own death if something happened, or for Henry his consciousness to live in his dad. And maybe after she killed Henry Sr., maybe Henry Jr.'s consciousness goes into her head. I don't know. I think there's definitely an open door for either of the Brainwaves to come back if they pull like the Charles Xavier and his mind was able to escape their body. Do you think Dragon King is dead? Because I do not. I think with Cindy taking the charge, I wouldn't be surprised either way. If she can regenerate the way that she does, I think it's very likely that he would be able to regenerate too. Because that stab through the chest, I don't think that would be enough to kill him if he had the same regeneration powers that she did. But I don't know. I think if they want to keep going this route and pass the torch on to the next step for the next season, the best call would be to just to say he's dead. I don't know. It was a kind of a punk way to go out. I get it. And I like that Cindy did it because they've been building up that confrontation between the two of them for a while, and I liked it. But I wouldn't be hurt either way if they did bring him back into the fold, and I wouldn't be hurt if they just said he's dead. Yeah, can't Iceman's consciousness reform as long as there is one snowflake of his original form left. Eventually, Iceman becomes so powerful he can reform as long as there's any moisture whatsoever in the universe. It doesn't have to even be his body, which is so stupid because he's like, I think he transcends Omega level mutant at that point. Yeah, Iceman becomes so broken at one point in the comics. It's crazy. Hey, Busy, what's up? Thank you for popping in, man. I've been watching some of your reactions. A lot of fun. I hope you're keeping up with Hannibal because that show is awesome. I watched your first one of that, and it was you're in. If you keep going for it, man, it's some fun stuff. Let's see. Yeah, Brainwave got cocky and said, "Your friends" instead of "our friends." Yep. Fucked up. Brainwave, for all of his big brain, he did not have a good. He definitely smooth brained that whole encounter with her. Shade, Grundy, Icicle, Brainwave versus Team Flash. Does this Team Flash include Wally? If we got 2 speedsters, probably Team Flash. If we don't, I would say Shade, Grundy, Icicle, and Brainwave would be able to take that away. How did you like Marvel's Runaways? I wish they could point if you know how it ended. I haven't watched it. I haven't watched that one. As far as the Marvel shows that I've watched, I've seen the first 4 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I've watched all of the Netflix shows all the way through. Other than that, I haven't watched a lot of the Marvel shows. A lot of them just particularly didn't interest me, or I just didn't have any existing knowledge about what they were about, like with until I looked into it, like Legion. I haven't watched that, or there's a few other ones I can't remember off the top of my head. Damn. There was the one that bombed completely and they canceled it. I can't remember what that one was. I can picture the characters in my head, but I haven't watched it. But I haven't watched The Runaways. So yeah, CW won't have to edit it if they air it after watershed times. I mean, you might be right. I don't know. Yeah, okay. You got a point, Caleb. They might be able to do that if they air Swamp Thing a little bit later in the evening. Because that makes sense too with how much Legends of Tomorrow gets away with. Because they get away with some stuff, even though it's not. They get away with a lot of stuff that they say and do that the other shows wouldn't even dare to try, which I think is always funny. And I think that's one of the things that keeps that show really fresh too, even though it's kind of strayed away from its original roots. I think the show should just build up the relationship slowly, considering the characters are teenagers, and how they build up Rick and Beth's relationship since they are a couple in the comics. I did not know that. That's interesting. And I would not have called that. Except for that joke, that moment, like when Rick caught her after Yolanda threw her out of Cindy's bedroom. That's cool to know. Yeah, I'd like them to make it natural and build it up, like, gradually. I don't think we need to be jumping into any relationships and stuff in this show, especially considering these are smaller orders for shows. Another agreement, the Dragon King isn't dead. You have to understand that AMC and CW are 2 different stations with different rules and other stuff. That is also true. AMC is a cable television service. CW is a public station. And people that don't have cable TV don't need cable to watch CW. As long as you have a TV and have tuned into it, you get CW for free. AMC you have to pay for with a cable service provider at least. So I don't know how much that'll affect it. And I think that's also one of the reasons CW's budgets are always so much lower, is because they do give out a lot of their stuff for free, and all of their income is mostly through advertising. Do you think there will be a Doom Patrol Season 3? Yes, I do. I think we'll get an announcement for that at DC Fandome, which we're going to be covering, which is going to be a train wreck of keeping up with, because I'm probably going to miss the Flash panel when it originally airs, since it starts at the exact same time as the Wonder Woman panel for 1984. but I might record it later. It reruns at 4 a.m. So I don't know. I'm going to probably just do one long live stream all day long, and we'll just jump in and out between the panels that I want to check out. So it's going to be a crazy long ass day of us just kind of live streaming through this thing. But I do think we're going to get a Doom Patrol Season 3. And they did confirm Jim Lee, who is now in charge of DC, after the restructuring and the huge layoffs that they just hit DC Universe and all that with the other day. Jim Lee is in charge of everything, and he confirmed that all of the DC Universe originals will be moving to HBO Max for their subsequent seasons. So I think that's going to be interesting, because we didn't have a confirmation for Harley Quinn yet that it was going to go to HBO Max or not. And we got confirmation that Titans, Doom Patrol, everything else is going to be moving over. And CW has exclusive streaming rights with HBO once their streaming rights expire with Netflix, if that is still true. So eventually all the CW shows will also be streaming on HBO Max. It's like from Batman the Animated Series, the mechanic farm out certain things that they are trustworthy to do what they do best, and that's, I guess, for the Taylor from Titans. I don't remember that. I mean, you're probably right, but I don't. It just doesn't make sense to me that they would just have all of their identities out there like that. Even if they do trust them, it just seems like Batman, being the paranoid person he is, just doesn't seem like the person that would do that to me. How much of the school element do you think they'll keep active in season 2? I think now that a lot of the adults are out of the picture, I think we'll get more of it in season 2, especially with the young ISA coming into play. I think we'll get a lot more of the high school element of the show in season 2. That would be weird, having your ex-boyfriend's consciousness in your head. How would that relationship work? I don't know. I have no idea. That would be really messed up. I don't know how you'd get along with it. But yeah, it would definitely be a constant guilt trip, but also think about it. You would never be as close as if you were in each other's head. And that's also a terrifying thing too. I hope they won't make the Red Hood arc on Titans, because they already ruined it. I heard that that season 3 was going to have Jason Todd go ahead and become the Red Hood. But he hasn't died. He's just going to become the Red Hood. I don't know. That's just a rumor I've heard. I've heard a lot of people echo that Red Hood is going to be in season 3. But then again, before season 1 came out, they said Red Hood was going to be in season 1. And that never happened. Because I remember there was like an episode leak list that came out before the season actually aired that said one of the episodes was titled Red Hood. And a lot of the rumors were saying Red Hood was going to be the main villain of season 1, but no, Jason Todd was just in the show. That was pretty much it. So I don't know. I feel like they will eventually do Red Hood. Without the Joker storyline, I just don't know how you could just like wrap him up into it and be faithful. I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in anything Titans is going to be doing until they prove that they can write some good seasons. That one made show said... The one that made the show said they can't confirm any deaths, but only one they can confirm is Brainwave. Really? Okay, so they're like, I can't confirm any of them, but Brainwave is definitely dead. That's cool. Busy. I have really enjoyed Hannibal so far. It's different than what I'm used to, but I like it. It's really different. I watched it not too long ago. I started it like 2-3 years ago, but then I took a huge break from it until me and Greg Alba over at Real Rejects was talking about it a little bit, because he got started into it recently, and that reinvigorated my desire to actually finish it, because I finished season 1, or I almost finished season 1, and then I was like, I just took a break and never went back to it. And once I did, man, I loved it to death. I missed the show. I finished it completely, and I'm on the Save Hannibal train, man. That show is so good. What's up, Chainsaw? They should greenlight my show, Chainsaw Destroys All Reactors. You, making a Godzilla pun there? Bring it on! We'll fight, we'll have a big old monster battle royale. I'll do it. I'll join in. I'll hype fight. I'm glad I watched Stargirl because I'm finally watching your channel. Aw. Thank you guys. That's sweet. Gargamon. So cool. I love you guys. I think WB should buy out CBS Viacom's stake in the CW so they don't have to deal with splitting profits with them. Yeah, I think that would be a really good play, and I think that might be something AT&T works out into. I forgot the CW was a split joint effort. But yeah, I can get that, because they might be able to, yeah, like you said, that might be able to allow them to do some bigger budgets. Because CW was after that buyout or that merger or whatever, because it used to be the WB. And then I guess they lost some of their shares, or I can't remember what exactly happened when they went from the WB to the CW. But yeah, I think it would benefit Warner Brothers a lot to buy out that stake. King Shark, Zoom, Grundy, Shade versus Wally, Stripe, Flash, Stargirl. I think Wally, Flash, Stargirl, Stripe would win that fight. CBS has a deal with CW for the shows CBS produces for them. Yeah. I hate those mixed deals, those mixed bags like that. Because that's when you get all these muddy deals that's where you just can't do certain things because so and so has the rights to certain blah blah blah, and you can't do. It just gets messy when your rights are all over the place. Predictions for Titans season 3. I have no idea, man. I have no clue. Raven's brain gargoyle still running around. They didn't resolve that. We might get Joker, the Red Hood arc, because there's been a lot of speculation out there for that. I don't know. The show's such a mess. I have no idea what they could go with next. But whatever they decide to do, they will probably just ruin it. Unless they really step it up. I think we might get more of Cadmus. I think we'll get maybe something, maybe Parasite, something that they've created coming out of it, because I don't know. It's crazy, dude. To me, the best DC show so far is Arrow. Great storyline, acting, all characters very invested. It's tough to top it. Arrow's my favorite. Easy. It's my favorite DC show, period. And that's even though it's had some shitty seasons. Even at its worst, I've still enjoyed the show, and it's mostly because of the actors, the performers in the show. The stunt team in the show has been just some of the best. Like, watching them evolve over the seasons was fantastic, and Stephen Amell in that role, he owned that role. And I love the dude for it. It lulled. They didn't know what to do. They tried to match the Flash's ratings, and they did the lighter tone Flash thing for season 4 because they thought maybe that'd get more people invested in it. And, you know, it has its lulls, but I still love it to death. It's my favorite. I think objectively, it's not the best show that we've seen out of DC, but for me, it's always going to have a special place in my heart. And I came into it with like these not so high hopes, because it came out right after the heels of Smallville, and I had spent 10 years with Smallville. Even though I didn't watch every season, I was still very much invested with it, and with Justin Hartley's version of Oliver Queen and the Green Arrow, and going into it, and then them announcing that he wasn't going to be playing Green Arrow, and that I was always like, well, who's this new guy who's going to be playing Green Arrow after we've had a Green Arrow for 10 years. What's going to happen here? And then I was just like, I didn't watch it until it was into season 2 after a friend finally recommended it, and I binged it all. I started it on Netflix, binged it all the way through, and I loved it to the death. The first season was so good. And I think season 8 was just crazy. I loved it. I mean, there was a lot of fan service in it, but it had me emotional almost every episode because I was there for every step of that journey. Arrow's always going to have a really welcomed and loved place in my heart. But again, I'll reiterate, I love Arrow, but I don't think that it is, objectively speaking, the best DC show. I think objectively speaking, I think it's technically Watchmen or Doom Patrol. But since Watchmen is DC now, you think Starman will help Courtney use her staff better next season? She can fly with staff in hand and fling stuff telekinetically with the staff. Maybe. Like, I have no idea where that storyline's going to go. I don't know if he's going to try to take the staff back and just become Starman again. I don't know if he's going to help her help train her and help her get better with it. Or if he's even Sylvester and he's not somebody else just pretending to be him for some benefit of their own. The only show we would lose if WB bought out CW would be Nancy Drew, Katie Keene, and Riverdale. And honestly, out of those, I don't watch any of those, but I know for the CW, Riverdale would be their biggest hit to ratings because a lot of people watch that show. But I would not be sad to see it go. I think Garrick from The Flash might come to Stargirl. He will not. I don't think Jay Garrick or our Jay Garrick or any Jay Garrick that we know will go to Stargirl. Mostly due to the conversations that Geoff Johns has already had. Riverdale originally was made by WB-TV and they canceled it internally, but CBS picked up the production and kept it on CW. Yeah. I think that's their highest rating too. I think that'd be their biggest hit to ratings, especially since Supergirl and Batwoman have been continually tanking. Legends of Tomorrow has actually been lower but the most consistent, and The Flash is still making the ratings making the ratings fairly well throughout, so I think that'll still keep going strong. So I don't know if how that would hurt them if they lost Riverdale or not. I don't think they would lose out for Nancy Drew or Katie Keene though. Wish we lived in a world where Mr. Nobody popped up at the end of Doom Patrol Season 2 talking about how COVID shut things down. That would have been amazing, and I wish that had happened, especially since we know he's not in the painting anymore, and they could have done that. Missed opportunity. If Stargirl, Titans, or Doom Patrol were to compress their casts, get rid of certain characters due to budgeting or writing purposes, who would you be okay with seeing leave? Ooh. Stargirl as it stands, I don't think that it would work if we lost anybody. At least from our core cast, the core family. You know, Pat, Barbara, Mike, Port, Beth, Rick, and Yolanda. We need them. Outside of that, I think you can dox Tuba Kid, anybody else at that point except for Cindy, I think is pretty much out. And you could have the members that we think are dead of the ISA actually be dead if you needed to cut them for budget reasons. Titans, shit. Rose. I mean, can I just say cancel the show, restart the show, reboot the show? I mean, right now I think everything's wasted in it. Doom Patrol, I can't get rid of any of them. I don't know. I mean, the thing with some of these shows, I think the way to keep it in there is kind of what the CW has done, which is just not let them use their superpowers. When Legends of Tomorrow had its huge budget cut, they just had Ray stop using his suit. Sarah stopped suiting up. Everybody just stopped using their powers and just started doing the historical thing, dressing up and using like their hands and stuff. Mick wouldn't even use his fire gun that often. If they had to, they just need to cut back on the special effects, really. If they, I don't know. These shows, those 3 shows in particular, don't have the issue that I feel that Black Lightning, Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow have, where their casts are so filled out that they have an issue with it. I think the way those shows run, you need these core characters that you started off with for it to even operate. Why almost everyone hate Titans? Can you explain this to me, because I haven't watched the show? It's got really bad special effects. It, like, the CGI is worse than anything I've seen on the CW. It has really horrible staging of its fight choreography. It only got a little bit better in season 2, but it still has subpar hand-to-hand fight scenes compared to, hell, I think Batwoman had better hand-to-hand fight scenes than it. But if you're coming off of something like Arrow, that stunt team, you don't beat it right now. And then the writing, the writing is god awful. As edgy as it tries to be and as deep as it tries to be, it keeps its characters standing still all the time. Like, nobody completes an arc. I think the only person that had an arc and saw it through was Raven and Starfire. Beast Boy kind of was flatlined through the entire season, and Dick was doing circles. He was spinning in circles the entire first season, and then he goes back on repeat in season 2. They just, none of it's satisfying. Nothing about what they do with the characters are satisfying, and all they do is just ruin the characters if you love them from the comics at all. So, hate it so much. I love DC to death, and I always try to see the good in all of it, but there's some good things in season 2. Ian Glenn, I liked him as Bruce Wayne. I thought him and Dick have, the casting decisions in the show are good. I think the actors themselves are good. And I just think the direction and the writing and the pacing of these shows is just the most subpar bullshit I've seen on TV. Sorry. I think some people like it while others don't like it because of the writing. Fuck, man. Sorry. Titans, I just can't deal with it, man. Do you think there will be a speedster in Stargirl? I think maybe eventually. I don't know. Have you thought about reacting or reviewing DC animated movies? Maybe going forward. I might do some kind of reaction for some of those down the road. I definitely have been trying to review them, at least whenever I've watched them, because it's been a long time since one's come out and I've had the channel. I did watch and react, not watch, I did a review for Apocalypse War. That was the last one I remember doing something for. But I do try to at least review them now. Because this channel is only a year or two old, 2 years old now. So yeah, as I've gotten better at this, more efficient at doing this, I'm trying to keep up with a lot of that stuff a lot better. So expect to see more things like that come out. I think I did Batman versus the Ninja Turtles too. I think I did watch that one too and review it. But yeah, what is it? The next one's Superman Man of Tomorrow. I'll be watching that, and I will be giving you guys my thoughts on it. I love Titans. It has its flaws, but it's an extremely different take on a superhero show, and I think all the actors are amazing. Again, I get why some people don't like it, but I think it's worth. And that's fair, and that's art. I mean, that's the thing about these shows and stuff, man. Everybody has different tastes. Everybody's going to have a different take away from it. And that doesn't make you wrong for liking it. It doesn't make you wrong for not liking it. Like, people have different reactions to everything, and it's not going to work for everybody. For me, I just can't stand the show. And I don't want to take I don't want to take that away from anybody. It's just, for me, it just doesn't work. The others have their inner hillbilly jump out as well. Yeah, my redneck comes out every now and then, especially when I'm talking for a long time and my throat's getting dry. Ugh, it just comes out worse. I don't see CBS buying out CW, mostly because they would lose a lot of viewers if they get rid of Nancy Drew and the other teenage shows. Yeah, I don't think it would go the other way around. I don't see CBS buying it out, because I think at that point they'd have to buy out a lot. I don't think they would want to buy out what they would need to take Warner Brothers portion of it. And if they tried, Warner Brothers would probably push back on that and probably outbid them. Budget. Let's Spider-Man 2, everyone. Let's Spider-Man 2, everyone. I don't know what you mean by that, Garamon. Are we talking Spider-Man 2 like the movie? Because that's like the best, one of the best Spider-Man movies. I need you to elaborate on what you mean by that. Titan's best fight was in a car park against a crazy family. Yes, I thought some of the fight scenes against Deathstroke were okay. Not great, but okay. But I think the best thing that Titans does is the suits. Those suits look really good. Can you explain about the more about the staff Courtney has? Could she make it without the staff if she didn't have it, or using a short time longer? You think, like, could she hold her own if she didn't have the staff? If that's what you mean, probably not. I mean, she is a black belt, she is a gymnast, so she would probably be able to do a little bit on her own, but she would be able to do more than Beth at this point. Beth doesn't have Chuck. Beth doesn't know hand-to-hand, so she's a better team member than Beth at this point. Biggest pet peeve about Titans is how they continuously talk about being a family and about how great they are or were in their prime, but we've never even seen that. They split up every 2 episodes. Yes, that 100%. Even in the flashbacks, we don't really see it, except for a little bit prior to Aqualad's death, but it never made any sense. We've always seen them fractured. We've never seen them together, man. Everybody is just so burned out, toxic, and just... it's just emotionally exhausting to watch, and it's not in a good way. To me. Oh my god, my kids watched the Batman vs. Ninja Turtles movie and then got a little fucked up because Shredder beheaded a dude. Yeah, they trick you with that Ninja Turtles in there. They think, oh, this is gonna be a little lighthearted, but they murder some dudes. Shredder decapitates a guy. They slice off a dude's hand to use a hand scanner. It's great. I loved it. And that's a little more to the edge that Ninja Turtles actually has in the comics, because the Ninja Turtle comic books are actually pretty dark. All the members of Titans are all toxic to one another, pretty much. And Beast Boy is literally abused every other week. Right? They made him eat a dude. Even Beast Boy, they even brought Beast Boy down to their level and brought down his pure soul. I don't know. Titans has it has a lot of potential, but it's just been, I just think it's been wasted so far. As long as it's DC, I'm still going to give it a chance and keep hoping that it gets better. I will stick through it. I will still watch it. I don't know that I'll cover it because I don't want the swarm of dislikes that's going to come from me hating on it unless it gets better. And I also don't feel like it. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's if it gets picked up for a season 3, because I don't know if it's. Has it been confirmed? I think it has, that it's getting a season 3 for sure, but I don't know. They just need to step up the writing. I think they've got the cast down. They just need some good stories to tell with these characters and not waste them for a season. How long have we been going here? Not even find. An hour and 25 minutes. We have been talking for quite some time. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. So shoot off your final questions if you have any. Otherwise, we will be wrapping up today. I'll let it sit here for. I think Titans is moving to HBO Max, right? Yes, it is going to be moving to HBO Max. So season 3 for that, and season 3 of Doom Patrol will be season 3 for Doom Patrol. I don't think has been announced yet, but season 3 for Titans, I'm pretty sure I remember hearing that it got confirmed and will be on HBO Max. When it comes to Stargirl, I really didn't like what they did with Beth. How did you feel about it? I feel like she did nothing. I feel like they could have done more with Beth, but I think that her mind is something they're going to build up on, because she did have a lot of great ideas. She did have a really good relationship with Chuck, even though I think Chuck did a lot of the heavy lifting for her. I think we could see her, now that Chuck is out of the picture, at least for now, grow into her some confidence into her own abilities, and we can see her more being the brains of the operation, coming up with the plans, the strategist and whatnot. I think that we'll see her grow more into that, because I think that Chuck gave her some confidence and some belief and some structure to get herself out there, and now she has friends, and I think she can use them as a platform to strengthen herself, and then maybe put herself in the role that Chuck had, and maybe we'll see her grow into that. Do you think Stargirl will cross over with Supergirl? Probably not. I don't know. I think if anything, it'd be in a full crossover with everybody. I don't see anything that Supergirl does that would very much so correlate to Stargirl more directly. I'm not saying that they could or couldn't do it. I don't know how I don't know how I'd like it. I would like to see Kara interacting with Stargirl for sure, but I just don't want the Stargirl writers or Supergirl writers to have their hands on any of the Stargirl characters yet. Who's your favorite character in Stargirl, not Pat or Brainwave Jr.? Well, damn it. If I can't pick Pat, because Pat's my favorite character in Stargirl, it would have to be Yolanda. I think Yolanda's my favorite character. Other than that, because she's just got so many layers to her character. She's got a belief structure. She has her own morals. She has her own strength. She has her own family issues she's got to work through. She's got a lot of things that she's got to deal with, and I think they do a really good job at writing her as a conflicted character who's struggling with her morality and her own confidence, and I like that about her. Thank you for your time. Thank you guys so much. You watched Young Justice. I have watched it all 3 seasons, loved it, and I hope we get more. Do you think the CW will force a political agenda with Stargirl? My biggest concerns. I think as long as Geoff Johns is in charge, the stories that need to be told will be told authentically and organically. If we get CW writers, maybe. It's always a thing, because that was a lot of my problems with Supergirl has been a lot of the writing never felt organic. In the earlier seasons, I thought it was really forced. Back before it came to CW, when it was on, CBS, right? CBS was where it was before originally. That was so bad. I don't know. It could be. I don't think so. I think as long as Geoff Johns is in charge and they keep their writers that they currently have, I don't think we have to worry about any of that. Favorite villain of Stargirl? Jordan. hands down Jordan. Second, Brainwave. Yeah, I mean, Stargirl did already get a little political, like D. McKenzie just said, with the whole like ISA constitution that they had. It was a little bit of a jab at pretty much both sides, the way that it was reacted to it. Last question. Hope you have a great day. Oh, thank you, Anthony. I hope you do too. How would you compare the ISA villains to CW villains? I would say, I don't think any of them compare to, I think the ISA villains were a little more layered than we've seen some of the CW villains. So I think with some of the CW villains, they definitely got very much so into the cartoony comic book side of things. Except for, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's negative. I don't know, it's hard to talk about it, but Jordan I absolutely loved to death. I thought he by and far was the standout villain of the season. I thought and it was really all from the actor and his performance, really. I could put him up there just top notch with it, but I think CW struggles with some of its non-iconic villains. Like, out of the Flash, the ones that stand out to me are easily Reverse Flash. He's my favorite villain that we've seen in DC live action TV. Hands down. I love Tom Cavanaugh, I love the way he plays him, and I love the Reverse Flash. But then from there, it's all kind of a little bit downhill. You know, I like Zoom, he was alright. I like Savitar, and I thought the twist that it was Barry Allen was really interesting. Past that, I haven't really liked any of the Flash villains after those points, after that we stopped having speedsters. Arrow, Deathstroke was the best villain. I liked Roz, he was all right. I think after a little while, some of the villains in the CW shows, they don't have the draw, the pull, the weight to them that they need. So I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard comparison. At least for me, because my brain's not great. I'm not the smartest cookie in the bunch when it's talking about this stuff, but I gotta say that, like, I thought as a dynamic, as a team, as a unit, as a pull, as a weight, as a drive, I thought all of these characters were a lot more interesting than I'd say 75% of CW's villains. 80% of CW's villains. Yeah, favorite villain in Flash, favorite hero. Favorite hero in Flash is Flash. Favorite villain is Flash is Reverse Flash. Spectre, after all of us finished, after prizes. That was, Roshanese, that was one of my thoughts as well. I haven't heard anybody else say that, honestly. I thought I came up with that. So that's interesting to think of, because I mentioned that earlier in the stream. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. It's been a long, lengthy stream. My throat hurts from all of the talking. But thank you guys so much for showing up and supporting the channel and this journey that we've had here. I really appreciate you guys, and we will be keeping up with all the DC stuff coming up, so keep an eye out. Make sure you join me for DC Fandome on the 22nd, because we're pretty much going to be doing one gigantic stream all day long for the various panels. Only taking a couple breaks here and there for some drink, food, and whatnot between, or well, honestly, whenever we can between panels, because it's going to be a jam-packed, busy day with trailers, reveals, and awesome stuff. Thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care, everybody.